Kingler has historically been a solid Pokemon throughout GSCNU's history. Never a top tier Pokemon, but an immensely dangerous threat nonetheless. It was one of the few Pokemon who could break through Feraligatr and Poliwrath when they were around, using its resistance to water to set up all over the common Rest Talk plus Toxic sets that they would run. The biggest problem it faced in the Mr. Mime and Raichu metagames is that the best Pokemon was a special attacker that outsped and threatened Kingler hard, so it could be hard to make consistent use out of it. When Raichu and the broken water types were banned, Kingler got a big boost in viability and established itself as one of the best Pokemon in GSCNU early on, and unlike many Pokemon who were top tier early on, such as Chinchou, Primeape and Dugong, Kingler has remained one of the best Pokemon in the tier to this day. In fact, as I will go over later, I personally think Kingler is somewhat busted, and if I had to ban one Pokemon from GSCNU, then it would be this crab. So just looking at Kingler's stat spread, one thing immediately sticks out: 130 base attack. That is the highest attack stat of any Pokemon in GSCNU. However, Kingler can't use stab moves off that 130 attack, so on boosted, its attacks are actually fairly weak due to how bulky GSC is. That is, until you look at Kingler's move pool and see that as one of the few Pokemon in GSCNU to learn Sword Stance, which boosts its strength dramatically. A +2 Kingler can 2-hit out every single Pokemon in GSCNU, with frustration and hidden power ground. Period. The only Pokemon who it can 2-hit out is Shuckle, who first off is awful, and second off you can run Surf or Crab Hammer if you really want to hit it anyway. This makes Kingler an immensely powerful offensive threat in GSCNU, being one of the two premier setup sweepers alongside Statler. Kingler is a great Pokemon to use in offensive teams, since it's practically unwallable and can take advantage of resting Pokemon extremely well. Kingler is also decently fast, being faster than Weezing, Dugong, Chinchou and Flareon. While its speed is decent though, it still fails to outspeed Pokemon like Statler, Magmar and Xatu. While these Pokemon do take a truckload from Kingler regardless, they can still offensively check it, so Kingler is often paired with Paralysis support to help overcome these issues, being quite possibly the scariest Pokemon when supported by Paralysis. Good Paralysis spreaders include Gloom, Wigglytuff and Dragonair, all of whom have synergy with Kingler. Kingler's typing gives it an immensely useful resistance to water that will let it set up on the common Rest Talk Ice Beam Octillery as well as Dugong. A resistance to fire also means it can set up on Ninetales and Rapidash that lack hidden power grass. Its defense stat is also quite good, which can make it a decent check to Dugtrio and Sudowoodo if needed. Kingler's most common set is a substitute set, using it to avoid status from Pokemon like Gloom and fish for full paralysis versus a paralysed foe. At the end of the day though, the most common and useful partner for Kingler is Houndour of all Pokemon. Xatu is the best check to Kingler in the tier, and Houndour completely walls the most common variants of the bird and pursues Xatu as it switches out. This is insanely useful support for Kingler, who can then finish off the weakened Xatu the next time it comes in. Houndour can also just KO Xatu by rather easily doubling in on it and KOing with Pursuit a lot of the time, so Kingler has an even easier time sweeping. Houndour plus Kingler is one of the most deadly and best team styles in GSCNU as a result. Overall, Kingler is one of the best Pokemon in GSCNU, and an important offensive Pokemon that defines the metagame. Kingler can run non-substitute sets too, but they are generally not worth using. If it wasn't for Xatu, who prevents Kingler from being a top 5 status Pokemon, Kingler would absolutely be banned in my opinion. Without Xatu, Magmar is the only Pokemon who can reliably outspeed and 2-hit KO Kingler, but even then, Magmar just dies to hit +2 hidden power ground. The prominence of Xatu does hold Kingler back a bit, but it's still far from a hard counter to Kingler, since +2 frustration does over 65%, and Kingler can be paired with Houndour or Paralysis support.